Welcome. I'm Alex. This is Code Along with Alex, and today we're going to get into modules. So let's read the docs and then get into some code. So Rust provides a powerful module system that can be used to hierarchically split code into logical units, modules, and manage visibility, public or private, between them. So a module is a collection of items, such as functions, structs, traits, implementation blocks, and even other modules. So the first section we're going to cover is visibility, but let's toggle to the code real quickly. We don't spoil the fun. So by default, the items in a module have private visibility, but this can be overridden with the pub modifier. So only the public items of a module can be accessed from outside the module scope. All right, so I'm going to create a new cargo project called visibility. Let's change into visibility and let's open the main.rs. Let's create a few empty lines for ourselves at the top of the file, and then we're going to define a module for ourselves. We're going to call this module myMod. Really original naming, but feel free to change it as you like. So first we're going to define a function. We're going to call it a private function because you guessed it, it's private. And it just invokes the println macro and it prints out called myMod private function. That's it. And then just a semicolon. Okay. And so now let's use the pub modifier and then define a public function to override the default private visibility. So that'll be pub fn function. And we're going to similarly call the println macro and just pass called myMod function and the semicolon. Cool. So items can access other items in the same module even when private. And so now we can do an example of indirect access by declaring another public function called indirect access. And so here we're going to print, not the println macro, the print macro called myMod indirect access, comma, that, and then a new line. And then invoke private function. Very cool. And then you can also have nested modules inside your module. So we can actually now define. Let me close the folder tree just to make it a little easier to see everything. But let's define a module, a public module called nested. And that can have its own public functions. It's on function, print ln called myMod nested function semicolon. Okay. And then we can also define a private function. We're going to pass the allow dead code flag just so that the compiler doesn't yell at us with warnings for having dead code. So this one will be a private function called private function, and it'll just invoke the println macro, and like the other functions, just print out kind of the location inside the module hierarchy. Cool. All right, we're getting there. And so now functions declared using pub in path syntax are only visible within the given path. And so path must be a parent or ancestor module. And so let me do an example of that. Pub, not pun, pub in crate my mod fn public function in my mod, and then this will invoke the print macro called my mod nested public function in my mod. Oh, gotta remember that. Semicolon. Oh, I skipped some steps. Gotta pass that and a new line character, a space. Okay, and then on this next line, we're just going to invoke public function in nested. Great. And so functions declared using the pub self syntax are only visible within the current module, which is the same as leaving them private. And so now we're going to define the public function in nested. So we'll do pub self. So this is the same as leaving them private. Fn, so public function in nested. And this just invokes the println macro. It says called my mod nested public spelling function in nested. Okay, always the semicolon, or not always, but nearly always. Okay, at least for these println statements. Okay, and so then another example or variation, functions declared using pub super syntax are only visible within the parent module. So let's define such an example. Fn public function in super mod. So here we're going to invoke the print macro. Interesting how we sometimes use println and sometimes just the print. Curious why. And then the times that we're using just the print, we're manually pasting the new line character. It's interesting. Call public function in my mod. That, and then the new line, because we're not using the println macro. Okay, semicolon. And then let's do nested. Ooh. Public function in my mod. Next, let's print the greater than sign, space. Finally, let's invoke nested public function in supermod. Okay. So then pub crate makes functions visible only within the current crate. All these variations, interesting. Pub crate fn public function in crate. So here, you guessed it, println. I guess we could have just done the print macro, but my mod public function in crate. Semicolon. We are getting there. So many function declarations. Okay, and then one last module that we're going to define inside this nested body. This one is going to be a private module. Private nested. So to start, let's do our allow dead code flag, because we're probably not going to actually invoke any of this code. It's kind of just going to be here as an example for learning, which is chill, but this flag will allow, or will remind the compiler to calm down. Println macro called my mod, no spaces needed. Oopsie daisy. Private nested, that double colon action. It's definitely different. I know, like, Rust does it. I think Go does it. I could be wrong. I think like C type languages mess with that double colon stuff. It's a little different from like Python and JavaScript, which is cool. The more you know. All right. And then private parent items will still restrict the visibility of child items, even if it's declared as visible within a bigger scope. So we're trying to make this public, but it's going to be private. Pub crate, fn, restricted, function, println, called my mod, private, nested, restricted, function. Okay. And that's it for module declarations. Now let's just define a little function for ourselves here. Actually, do I have one too many? No, we're good. Okay. Thought I had one too many. Do I have one too many curly brackets? We'll find out. That's a future me problem. Okay. So now let's define one last function, and then we'll populate our main function body to see if everything's working as expected. Hopefully it is. So println called function. So we're just trying to keep track of what we're calling when. Okay, semicolon. Now to the main function body. This is where it gets interesting. I think that all we can do is really just get right into it. Okay. So to start, let's delete this println boilerplate. Let's just invoke function. Next, we'll invoke my mod function. Okay. After that, we'll invoke my mod indirect access. Then my mod nested function. Love this autocomplete action. It's clutch. My mod call public function in my mod. Autocomplete. My mod public function in crate. And there we go. So I'm going to save this. We do cargo, run. We got some errors, but that's chill. I think that we just copy pasted something in the incorrect level, which is fine. Or we didn't copy paste anything. We just typed it in the wrong level. So my mod, those are all the same nesting. Pub mod, nested. Oh, is that where I messed up? So pub mod nested, and then call function is the same. Oh, I didn't even define that one. Pub super function in create. Oh, that's where I messed up. Okay. Well, we found it out. These all need to go in like a whole. It still looks kind of weird. So I'm just comparing with the docs right now, in case you're wondering. My reference. So my mod, private functions, the correct indentation. So it's function, so it's indirect access. Okay, so let me check. So some of my errors might not even be indentation related. So line 17. Yeah, I just spelled the println macro incorrectly. Line 22. Same silly mistake. Line 36. That's fine. We'll resolve that later. Okay. Let me clear this, run it again, and then we should have just the real, like, module nesting errors and not the silly println macro typos. Okay. So let's get back to comparing my code with the reference code. So private function looks good. So this is part of the process. Sometimes just things break, especially when you're learning. So I'm learning. We're all learning. I mean, okay. Pub modifier. So the function, so my mod : function looks good. So does indirect access. And then pub mod nested looks good. And then we indent private function and then pub and crate. Okay. And then pub self. And then pub super. And then we outdent to call public function in mod. And this is where I don't know if I copied this or I typed this. Function in super mod. Oh, I see what I did. I think I typed it in the wrong place. Okay. Oops. Things happen. Okay. Now the supermod or the public function in supermod is correct. Oh. Public, almost. Public function in supermod. And then delete this extra silliness. Okay, cool. Now let's do call public function in my mod. These are named so similarly. Okay, pub function, call public function in my mod. Okay, so no, I gotta define that. Call public function in my mod. Okay, so to start, we'll do the print macro called my mod, call public function my mod. And then we got to do the tricky that. There we go. Next. Okay, nested public function in my mod. Then we gotta outdent these two lines, and we are good to go. Let me clear these errors again. Okay, we're getting close. Oh, that's probably the same errors. Okay. Interesting. So then the pub call function, and then the pub create public function in crate. And then we have a new module that's nested, where we have a function and a restricted function. So I don't know, is there an extra? So that's it's weird. So there does need to be that closing. But then I feel like I have an extra, or I'm incorrectly indented. Oh, mod private nested. What the heck? This is weird. It's definitely something easy. Okay. Mod private nested. So there's that. Yeah, where does my mod actually end? Yeah, those are all in my mod. Okay. What the heck? This is weird. Is that green? Nested? Oh, are these not in nested? Oh, that's why. Okay, that's where I messed up. Damn, these are tricky. So call everything outside of pub function, call public function in my mod is not inside nested. Okay. That's why I messed up with the scoping of stuff. Okay, so I was like super confused. I was like, this is not working. Things get tricky sometimes. Okay, so we can delete this one, I think. Yeah. So where does nested now end? Okay, cool. So now okay, perfect. And then we need one more, I think. Will this work? Yes. Okay, cool. So that was awkwardly tricky, but just making sure that the module was in the correct level of nesting to trigger these functions. So you can see that to start we called function, then my mod, and you can just see the various levels of nesting that we're calling. We can also go further and try triggering private functions, and those will undoubtedly yield errors. So to start, let's do my mod. Ooh, caps lock is off. Nested public function in my mod, which this should be private. Oh yeah, it's not happy. It's private. Okay. Next one. Let's just try one more. And move on. So this one will be the private nested submodule. And here we'll use the restricted function. So I don't believe we'll be able to run this because of the error with, yeah, it's private. Cool. Sorry for that kind of delay. It can get a little tricky. It happens. So let's move on to structs. So struct visibility. Structs have an extra level of visibility within their fields. The default or the visibility defaults to private and can be overridden with the pub modifier. This visibility only matters when a struct is accessed from outside the module where it is defined and has the goal of hiding information, encapsulation. So I'm going to clear our terminal output. I'm going to make a new cargo project called struct visibility. And then we're going to change into that subdirectory open main.rs and get right to it. So I'm just going to delete that. So declare a module called my. To start, we're going to define a public struct called openBox with a public field of generic type T. Great. Next, we're going to define a public struct with a private field of generic type T. And we're going to pass the allow dead code flag. So the compiler lets us keep some dead code in here. The pub struct, closed box, generic type argument, contents T. And so you can see the subtle difference on the first struct. The field had a pub modifier. And on the second one, it doesn't. Okay, and so now let's implement for the closed box. So new contents T, and then I'll return a closed box with the generic type argument T. So closed box, contents, contents. Boom. Now our main function body, f in main. So let open box equals my open box. Oh, I don't have to do a new line. It's just a habit. Apologies. Contents. Public information. Okay, semicolon. Let me close the folder nesting just to make more text visible on my full screen. Okay. And then we'll do our println macro. the open box contains, and then we're going to pass the contents of open box dot contents. Awesome. Next, let's try to define closed box. Closed box equals my closed box new classified information. So now let's save this, run our program. So you can see the open box contains public information. Can we print out the confidential information, the classified information? I don't think we can. You know, okay, cool. Yeah, it's a private field. Nice. Okay. Very interesting. So you're not actually able to access those fields because they're not publicly available. So you do need to specify the visibility of things. Interesting. Okay, cool. Well, that was our whirlwind tour of, I'd say maybe not the whole tour. Let's say this was part 1 of our whirlwind tour of modules. Next time we're going to jump into the use declaration, super and self, and file hierarchy. But I just wanted to get a little easing into modules. So we're breaking this up into a couple parts. But I really appreciate you hanging out with me on this journey and learning Rust with me. It's been a lot of fun so far, and I look forward to see where we all get together. So I'm Alex. This has been Go Along with Alex, and see you next time.